They're the thinking person's heavy metal band, the godfathers of intellectual rock. Blue Öyster Cult gave the world one of the most recognizable and, let's be honest, most surprisingly beautiful guitar riffs in music history. Don't Fear the Reaper is so much more than a song. It's a cultural touchstone, a moment in time that's echoed for nearly 50 years. They followed up with the monster stomp of Godzilla and the radio perfect Burnin for You, cementing their legacy as rock and roll royalty. So why, after a career built on one genre-defining album after another, did they just go silent? For 19 long years, the studio doors stayed shut. No new music, no new stories, nothing. The band that wrote the soundtrack to the apocalypse simply stopped. It's easy to write this off as a simple case of a band getting past their prime, but the truth is way more complex. The surprising reason for the triumphant return had nothing to do with a big paycheck or a sudden wave of nostalgia. It's a story about the brutal economics of rock and roll, the quiet frustrations of being a legacy act, and how, against all odds, the sheer love of playing can reignite a fire you thought had burned out long ago. To understand the silence, you first have to remember the noise. In the 1970s, Blue Öyster Cult was this formidable, enigmatic force. Didn't look around, didn't sound like anyone else. The lyrics were cryptic, pulling from mythology, sci-fi, and the occult, while the music was a potent fusion of hard rock, psychedelic touches, and the pop sensibility they had just a knack for. Albums like Tyranny and Mutation, Secret Treaties, and of course 1976's blockbuster Agents of Fortune weren't just collections of songs, they were immersive worlds. They were pioneers, earning critical acclaim and commercial success in a way few heavy bands ever did. They were a staple on the radio, and when MTV launched, their videos were all over it, finally putting a face to their mysterious sound. By all accounts, they were on the top of the rock and roll mountain. But the music industry is a fickle bitch. The 1980s brought a huge shift in popular taste. The heady, complex rock of the 70s was making way for the polished shine of AOR and the wild theatrics of hair metal. Blue Öyster Cult adapted even cruising hits like the sleek Burning for You, but the ground was undeniably shifting under their feet. Their 1983 album, The Revolution by Night, saw them adopting a more radio-friendly sound, and by the time their ambitious 1988 concept album, Imaginos, failed to make a commercial splash, their longtime label, Columbia Records, dropped them. For most of the 90s, they became road warriors, a reliable draw on the concert circuit, trading on their legendary status. They managed to release Curse of the Hidden Mirror in 2001, but in a world now dominated by nu metal and pop punk, it landed with a quiet thud. The album's poor sales was a harsh reality check, and for the next 19 years, that thud echoed into an almost deafening silence. As the new millennium rolled in, Blue Öyster Cult settled into a comfortable, if creatively stale, rhythm. They were a touring machine, a nostalgia act playing songs everyone knew and loved. But the idea of making something new, it felt not just daunting, but kind of pointless. It was a brutal calculation, a decision driven by simple, unforgiving economics. Frontman Eric Bloom laid it out in stark terms in a 2017 interview. He explained that it costs money to make a record. It's a process that takes time, effort, and a serious financial investment. Why, he argued, would the band spend months making an album that, in his words, nobody's going to buy? From a business standpoint, it was a waste of time. Time that was better spent on the road, playing to packed houses, and earning a reliable living. This was the painful truth of a lot of legacy bands in the 21st century. The album, once the heart of a band's artistic and commercial life, had been devalued. Sales were plummeting across the industry, and for a band whose last record had underperformed, the risk just seemed way bigger than any potential reward. The fear was real. They were trapped in a golden cage of their own making, seemingly destined to play Don't Fear the Reaper and Godzilla forever, while the creative engine that built a legend just rusted away. Adding to this feeling of finality was the tragic death of founder keyboardist and guitarist Allen Lanier in 2013. His passing felt like the closing of a chapter, the loss of one of the key architects of their sound. For fans, and maybe even for the band, it seemed like the book on new Blue Öyster Cult music was permanently closed. The band will go on, sure, but as a living museum, not a living, breathing, creative force. And then, just when it looked like Blue Öyster Cult's recording career was nothing more than a footnote in their own story, something changed. It wasn't a multi-million-dollar record deal. It wasn't some Hollywood producer begging them for a movie song. The change came from within, born on the stages of theaters and festivals all over the world. The answer was in the lineup. By the late 2010s, the band had been solid for years with two powerhouse musicians who, incredibly, had never been on a Blue Öyster Cult studio album. Drummer Jules Rodino and multi-instrumentalist Richie Castellano, they both joined way back in 2004. For over 15 years, they had toured tirelessly, mastered the band's complex back catalog, and brought a whole new energy to live shows. In 2017, bassist Danny Miranda, who had been with them in the 90s and early 2000s, came back into the fold, completing a truly formidable rhythm chapter. This wasn't just a group of hired guns anymore. This was a band, a tight, powerful, and dynamic unit. And founding members Eric Bloom and Buck Dharma really started to notice. The nightly shows weren't just about recreating the past, they were crackling with new vitality. The turning point came from lead guitarist Buck Dharma. He looked at the musicians standing next to him on stage every night and had a powerful realization. In his own words, the live band had become so good it would be a shame not to, so they decided to record them. That was a surprising reason. It wasn't about money, it wasn't about sales projections or marketing plans. It was about the art, it was about capturing the lightning in a bottle that this specific group of 5 musicians was creating every single night. So it was the lineup. That was the main reason. Because the financial fears that kept them out of the studio were finally pushed aside by the artistic need to document the power of the current band. The pragmatic business decision to only tour had been overturned by the undeniable chemistry of their performance. The decision was made in July 2019. Blue Öyster Cult signed a new deal with Frontiers Records, and work on a new album began. The band approached it with a mix of history and modernity. Eric Bloom mentioned that about half the songs were ideas they'd been kicking around over the years, with the other half being written fresh for the record. The process built a bridge across the band's entire history. In a move that delighted longtime fans, guitarist Richie Castellano collaborated with Richard Meltzer, one of the band's first lyricists from their earlier days. The resulting song, The Return of St. Cecilia, was a direct and powerful nod to their own origin story, bringing their 50-year journey full circle. On October 9th, 2020, the world finally heard the result. The Symbol Remains was unleashed. From the opening notes of That Was Me, it was obvious it wasn't some tired nostalgia trip. The album was vibrant, heavy, and unmistakably Blue Öyster Cult. It was a sprawling 14-song statement that hit every facet of their iconic sound, from melodic pop rock on Box in My Head to the epic story-driven hard rock of The Alchemist. They even got pretty heavy on a song called Stand and Fight. This was the official recording debut for Rodino and Castellano, and you could feel the energy all over the album. The reception was fantastic. Critics hailed it as thoroughly inspired. More importantly, it connected with the fans. The Symbol Remains entered the Billboard 200, making it their first album to chart in the US since 1988's Imaginos. The decision, born from pure artistic need, had been completely vindicated. They proved the magic was still there, not just on the road, but in the studio. So next time you hear Blue Öyster Cult, remember the story doesn't end there. It's the story of a legendary band that stared into the financial abyss of the modern music industry and made the smart choice to stop. But also tell the story of how the sheer undeniable power of a live band, 5 musicians locked in perfect groove, became a creative force too strong to ignore. They didn't come back for the money, they came back because the music demanded it. As a wonderful epilogue, the band released another album in April 2024 called Ghost Stories, described as a collection of archival recordings from the 70s and 80s, reworked with modern technology. The press release called it a fitting finale to the recording legacy. While the band members say never, they've also stated that it's likely their final studio album, and I will do a video on that soon, by the way, and go into more details about that. But they continue to be a touring act. They bring an incredible 5-decade legacy to fans all over the world. What's your favorite track from Symbol Remains, or what's a Blue Öyster Cult deep cut you think more people need to hear? Check out this playlist with more Blue Öyster Cult reviews. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Please like the video. It helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Please subscribe if you're not already. I do rock and metal reviews, rankings, and more. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one.